Welcome to Rockstar Doctor Life. I'm Melissa Longo. As a chiropractor, I believe we have the profound ability to impact our communities and people's health on a global level, while also enjoying rich and rewarding personal lives and giving attention to the things that matter to us. Each week, you'll hear an inspiring conversation to give you ideas and insights to rock your practice, pursue your passions, find more connection and meaning in your life, and create a life and business that works for you. All right. Hey there, listeners. I am super excited. We've had a great pre-chat so far, and I've got a great guest with me today. Dr. Tony Ebel is in the house, and those of you who know the things he's been up to know that he's a bit of a rock star in his own right. They're doing some really great things with Epic, and he's got lots of great ideas to share with us today. So welcome to the show, Dr. Tony.
Hey, thank you, buddy. I am like 1/10 of the real rock star that you and your bestie, Allie Miller, are. And that's all I love Facebook. I just follow you guys and I go, when I get cool one day, I want to be like them. That's what I want to do.
Well, thank you. We've had some good leadership in our lives. I will give you, some credit there. So for folks who don't know what you're up to these days, can you just take us into Dr. Tony's life? Like, give us a snapshot of what are you doing and what do we need to know about you before we dig into the rest of our conversation?
Yeah, totally. You know what? Moving in just at the very front end of my second decade of this kick-ass job as chiropractor. Specifically, I very intentionally describe myself as a pediatric-focused family chiropractor, and I love it. But I love my life even more than that. And I have to finger quote it. I know it's a podcast. They can't see me doing that in the air. But I don't have a job. I don't have work. Being a chiropractor just kicks ass. And so does being a dad and an epic husband. And that's what I think is my proudest thing for sure, is my relationship with my beautiful wife, Cristina, who has run the practice. She's not a chiropractor, but has run the practice alongside me. I always like to say, I married into organization and execution, because otherwise I'm just a raging bull running all over the place. So she keeps us moving and doing that. My 4 beautiful kiddos. The first one was born 2 weeks before I graduated. My second one is truly my little miracle man, Oliver, who really ignited and cemented the perfect storm path that we've been on this whole time. And then my 2 little screwballs, Elena and Amelia, my 2 little girls. So in life, I have been living on a farm, a 20.5-acre farm with chickens and peace and relaxation. And it has been the greatest thing our life has ever had, because I can come out here and just completely recharge and reboot, which allows me to charge ahead like a crazy epic pediatric rhino guy in my work. And that's what we're doing. The practice, we just demolished all of our records this year at the practice. We're 100% cash, 1,000,000% fun, 65% pediatrics, just a huge family wellness practice. Epic Pediatrics and everything Epic is on fire. I get to go back to Cal Jam again, as we're in this season of that. And it's just such a freaking blast of doing this thing called chiropractic, not only here locally with my practice, but diving in with Dr. Jackson, with Dr. Fletcher, with Dr. Christy, Jake, and the team, and just bringing chiropractors on. My last, I guess, the right long answer. I'm also famous for long answers, fair warning. But, my recent obsession has truly been the startup conversation. And we launched for the very first time Club Epic Pediatrics at Life University in Atlanta. We have 2 amazing student leaders there that I've always wanted to do that for many years, but I needed the people who had the power to do it. And these 2 young rock stars, Heather and Jesse, they are doing that. So everything I'm really working on right now is how do we, just like the practice, I like taking kids out of the storm and then back to their epic life, but I wish they never had to go in, right? Mm-hmm. First to get out. So I'm busting my ass to do the same thing with chiropractors and saying, hey, I love the ones that come into Epic after, 3, 10, 30, whatever years of burnout, pain-based, insurance riddled, and they go our style, but we're trying to just swim upstream, and we are swimming upstream, and we've got more startups in our world than ever before. So that's a blast. And it makes me still pretend like I'm young. I just keep people younger. Right? I just keep grouping myself into their generation. I'm like, well, for us. And they're like, okay, not really, dude, but whatever.
Yeah. So many things that you touched on there that I want to pull apart. The first thing is, okay, so you talked about being on the farm as a great way for you to balance all the other high energy parts of your life. Have you always lived in this space, or talk a little bit more about why you feel that it's so important, not only for you, but for lots of docs? Because let's face it, I always say too, the more time you take out of your practice, the more engaged you can be when you're in your practice, right? So what does that mean to you?
It's crucial. Again, everybody has their different theories on it, and we're all really saying the same thing in our own unique, authentic way, as we should. But the theory that balance isn't really achievable, and I don't go for that. I go for counterbalance at all times. I kind of live my life I'm a CrossFitter, right? A Tabata style life. That's how God made me and how I'm happiest. And so when I'm on and I'm in it, I love to be in it, full speed, high energy, lots of caffeine, right? And just on it, which also means, again, I know the nervous system more than anyone, right? As a chiropractor and how it works, I need to be able to recharge and reboot my batteries. So no, we used to, when we set up shop 6-7 years in a row, when we were really, we still are, but this was more on my shoulders. Now we've got this awesome team. When we were really growing, and a lot of it was still on me and Cristina primarily, I lived literally 2 blocks from my practice. And there was a lot of beauty in that I could get right there and get after it. But there was also a difficult for me to disconnect and put space in between it. So I don't know that people need to go to the extreme of 27 minutes away like I am at 20 acres, but it was certainly right for us. And when I pull up my lane, I could have had this week's been a big one, just going. But it's like an immediate, if I was on HRV while I pulled into the farm, I think you would just see my box go right back.
Right down.
And I love it. So yeah, when I'm off, either here on the farm or on vacation, doing the things with the kids and family, I'm off, fully off.
It's like sleep, right? You give your body time to rest and repair so that you can go full speed. All the other times of your day, your brain can work functionally the way it's designed to. So you and Cristina have worked together always since you've been in practice?
Yeah, 100%. She, so the beginning of PWC was, first off, if the phone rings at all when you're a startup, you're like, oh, this is great. So then instead of put down whatever you're doing, it would be like, okay, put down the nursing baby and answer the phone. Yeah, Addison, grew up literally in the practice, year 1 and 2, sleeping on a blanket under a desk in the back, right? And doing that. So, and then we grew fast, and we've grown into this amazing team-driven thing. But Cristina is still the lifeblood, and she thinks the whole world is too people-y, Melissa, right? That's her saying, right? So, but she loves to be engaged with our team, and so she really runs it from the behind the scenes, and she's our office organizer and executor and integrator, and still does that while rocking 4 kids and everything else that we do together. So
I have 2 questions for you there, because that brings up, one is you must have tips for people who work with their spouse, right? And so, but the second question is, are you guys always, you got 4 kids, you got everything integrated. So how do you, when you're at home, are you talking about, your practice stuff when you're at home, or how do you switch gears and be, Tony and Cristina, the couple or the parents, and not fully engaged? How do you detach? So let's go with first question. What's your biggest tip for working with your spouse?
The biggest tip is you got to find time to get away and continue to have that 30,000 foot view, especially right if you're in the CEO seat of it. So it's crucial for us to find a morning, find evenings. And again, do they merge for date nights a lot of times with us? Yes, but we don't. Again, I think so many people strive for perfection instead of just being excellent and effective. So we don't beat ourselves up if we're on a date night having margaritas and tacos and we're talking about the business. We love it, right?
That's a pretty good business meeting.
Yeah, it really is. We should integrate them all that way. Yeah, the number one thing is to find separate time to work together so it doesn't permeate into the time you're having dinner with the kids or other sort of things, because we of course fall victim to that sometimes, and usually it means we haven't partitioned off enough time to focus on the business, knock everything out then, so we don't need to when everything else is going on.
Mm-hmm. So make some time specifically to talk about business stuff, basically. And it also sounds to me like you guys have very clear strengths, and she's being the organizational one that keeps the oil running, everything going smooth, and you being the one who does all the care and the clinical stuff, right?
Yes. I'm the energy. I just take off a new airplane every single day, and then she figures out how to land it. That's the Yeah. But again, we both have to shut it off, and we have to help each other be able to say, hey, not right now, because it'll certainly come if somebody's buzzing on something that they're handling and they need from the other person. But we really work hard to help each other not cross-pollinate with the kids and everything else, and save it for those times that it's allotted to. So, yep.
So when you guys are you guys both in the practice at the same time? Like, can you take us through, like, what are your logistics like? So who's home with the kids, or, the ages of your kids right now and practice life?
Totally. Yeah. It's been a great thing. The number one thing I wanted to go down and still, fight for this every single day with my legacy is to be this big, that did a lot of impact and influence in pediatric chiropractic and the perfect storm. And again, I give no craps about my own role in that, just the results of it. But I want to be known as a kick-ass dad and husband first. So I have dialed back in the practice in this season of life so I can be a great dad and husband. And so I have plenty of time where I get to travel or take the kids, to and from school and do those things. Cristina, though, is in the office. That way she's glued in and literally is touching it, a part of it, every Monday. So she spends all day Monday in there and is connected there. We have our team meetings. We do all those things. And then she's got, I would call it, 2 other shifts per week where she works remotely from our home office here and handles all the billing and the finances and the organization and keeps it all together.
Mm-hmm. How has your practice life changed when you've added more children to your family? Like, did you find that there were different hours that you worked, or just changes in bringing on other associates, or, what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, it became more and more important to not do it all myself. It became more important to trust others to do it for me, associates and CAs, and that art of delegation. One of our best friends, best mentors, both of us, is Dr. Fletcher. And he was on a podcast one time. I'll never forget, I heard him say, once you reach a certain level of growth, I honestly think in practice, just to get very logistical, again, I work with other chiropractors making this transition too. When you get in the peds and family cash lexicon anyways, when you get to 250, 300, 350, 400 a week, you're a busy chiropractor. And not in a bad way, in a great way. And now you can't do all the other things you wanted to do in life and in business. And Fletcher's quote was, at that point, you can only continue to grow at the level with which you can delegate. So I've always taken that message to heart and trusted other people. And I don't care if there's something that maybe I could have, at least I think, could have done as a 10 out of 10, and they do it as an 8 out of 10. The fact that they did it and I didn't is a 100 out of 10. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I just learned that early and often and love it. So that's how I get to have that space.
So what would you say to docs who find it tough to either ask for help or to accept that other people aren't going to do their, the responsibilities or the requirements you're asking for them at their standard? Because let's face it, a lot of docs struggle with perfection, and they struggle with, I'll just do it myself. It'll be faster and easier. And so what's your tip there? What's helped you just let go and trust that they're going to do the great job that they need, or be okay with an 8 out of 10?
Oh, this is a monster one. This is awesome. It truly is honestly a blessing and a curse, because as chiropractors, we take this entrepreneur life at the same time, and we pick up, we call them the gears in Epic, and we run with and build and do all the gears of the practice, and we manage it all ourselves. Whether we started good at it or not, we became good at it to get there. That also means we know it and can do it, which is the curse, right? Because then it makes it so much harder to let go of it. The let go has everything to do, perfectionism is in there as the word. I think it's absolutely ego. I think it's truly unbelievably ego that goes, nobody can do it like I can do it. Well, even if that is the answer, let it just be that for a second. Well, you also, unless you can't do 90 things at once and get to live an epic life. So to me, you either let go and let people do a damn good job with it and do their job with it, then you get your life out of it. Or you should just keep doing it, keep your ego in the way, keep your perfectionism in the way, just shut up and stop complaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick a path and just don't complain about whichever one you've, complained about.
That reminds me of what I said to my son, my 16-year-old. He washes dishes at a restaurant, right? And he hates it, of course. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, dude, you got 2 options here. One, you either accept that this job, you don't like it, but it's giving you money to do X, Y, and Z, make your driver's ed, whatever. Or, and you accept it and move on, stop complaining about it. Or option 2 is go find another job. Don't keep complaining about it, because it's not going to serve you.
It's crazy. Awesome. It is truly, it is on our shoulders to put our ego aside, because they're never gonna get, your other rockstar associates and CAs, they're never going to become awesome at it as long as you're standing there still holding the reins saying, I'm not going to let go until you fully have it. They literally, truly, using that metaphor, they can't fully grip and run the thing as long as you're even hanging on a little bit. And I cannot say I did that well in the beginning, right? I had people, but I picked the wrong people, and then I didn't trust them and let go. So it's a two-prong. You got to pick the right people who are trustworthy, but then you got to give them the space and place to be trusted as well.
And it's empowering for them too. So, you've always been a pediatric doc, or can you take us into the journey about how did that start for you?
Oh, you got it. Again, and I'll try and not be too Tony long-winded here. Yeah, I found chiropractic. I job shadowed a dude when I was 17. The reason I'm so good at helping kids with ADHD is I'm relatable, because that is me, was me. And so I had to do this project. Wanted to be in healthcare. I've always loved science. Everybody that knows me, I'm the nerdy science guy with the perfect storm. And so I was attracted to healthcare to help people, and attracted to it because you had to keep going to school and learn a lot about science and neurology, my obsessions. I still wish I could keep taking more classes. But the truth is,
you just need more time in your day.
That's exactly right. My wife's like, you're a moron. But I job shadowed a guy, awesome practice, high energy practice, busy practice. I would call it a standard chiropractic practice. Most people coming in with musculoskeletal issues and all that. But I fell in love with it. Back then, I Yahoo'd it, right? I'm from Iowa. I'm literally a farmer from Iowa. So, of course, you're going to go to Palmer. There's nothing else showed up on Yahoo at the time. And I then grew up in chiropractic school during the wellness revolution, as we would know it, right? And Dr. Chestnut being my number one mentor. And I got wellness certified before I became pediatric certified. So literally the original name of my practice, Premier Wellness Chiropractic, tells you everything I wanted to be, the premier wellness doctor for anybody and everybody. It's truly when Addison was born that I had that pediatric shift, started taking the pediatric classes. And when I learned about neurosensory autism, ADHD, which sounds nuts, but 10 years ago, the problem, like this mega problem of autism, was just coming of age. And I immediately put it together as relatability, because I thought that when I started getting adjusted after all that kind of first finding of it, that it just helped my shoulder and my back. I realized I was a kid who never slept at night. And as a kid who had a brain that could process a bunch of stuff, but couldn't organize it, all of my ADHD, sleep, sensory challenges evaporated with chiropractic, even though the chiropractor never told me that was part of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so that day galvanized my approach to that. I just got on PowerPoint. You should see the first ever Perfect Storm PowerPoint. Oh my God, it is so ugly. The graphics, it's like, Comic Sans font, horrendous. And in 2008.
But you got it done, right? And you went and changed some lives because you didn't care about the perfection of it at that point. That was probably perfect back then.
It was, right? I'm killing it in 2008 standards, right?
Yeah.
It started that. And once I started serving those kids and saw their result, first, honestly, it's not about this, but saw the struggle and the pain that those families went, how much they had literally had barely any hope left and had medicine. They had tried 17 different drugs for their family. Their kids had been sick. My first patients in the Perfect Storm were not these beautiful little, colicky babies and 3-year-olds with sensory and spectrum issues. They were 19-year-old epileptic, Asperger's on 6 different medications, where the parents are going, they're never going to be able to move out of our house if we don't do something different. And chiropractic was working for them, the toughest Perfect Storm cases ever. So over the last decade, we've just climbed the ladder metaphorically to get kids in earlier. And so that's where that all started. And once you get those kids and you see the results, I just haven't shut up about it since.
I was going to say, that's probably what keeps you fired up every day, right? I mean, I'm sure you've had your own mentors in chiropractic and programs you've done before you were with Epic, but a lot of docs have just said to me that, what keeps them most inspired is what they see in their offices every day. And those are, I've got goosebumps just hearing you talk about some of those stories.
It wasn't even, it's again, Dr. David Jackson, credit him with his genius. I had none of this had intent. There wasn't going to be a Perfect Storm PowerPoint for other chiropractors and an Epic pediatric training program that got there and posters and handouts. I was doing all of that stuff just to figure out how to better serve these kids in practice, right? Just to get better at it there, because the need was so huge, and you got it. The results would continue to refuel you to take the arrows. You get into autism and pediatric chiropractic conversations. Of course, the a-holes, the keyboard cowboys are going to come out, and you get refueled and rebooted to just get into these families and help calm and pull them out of that storm they're living in, and nothing else matters.
So we'll be sure to drop some links, because you guys have a specific program for docs who want to learn more, like clinically, specifically how to care for kids, right?
Yeah. And then, it started there. Its inception for me was the toughest of the tough. Right. And again, my own personal story came through that with Oliver, just to galvanize it. God put him in my life just to be like, hey, you little guy who runs around and is, does a million things at once. This is all you're doing, and with Oliver's story too. But yes, the perfect storm has now evolved awesomely. It's our prenatal conversation. It's our infancy and early childhood conversation. So it's anything just but autism and ADHD. It's the full family entry point, because no matter where you are, this stress early and often is ripping apart the health and happiness of families. So the perfect storm is the story of subluxation in a child, and then how it expands to the family. So yeah, we train docs how to do it, but most importantly, we train them how to then get results, right? Scans, neurologically focused, everything to it. So
it's interesting times right now in chiropractic. Certainly as we record this, there's a lot of stuff that's going on within Canada here. A lot of people who don't understand why kids should be adjusted. A lot of people that don't understand the evidence around neurologically based chiropractic. I don't want to really get into that right now, but I do think your comment about adversity is really important, because docs at all stages of practice life, and, big scale practices, little practices, are dealing with, big level adversity and small level. It might be the adversity of giving you recommendations for someone in your practice and them thinking you're crazy, or walking, just the stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. What has been the biggest advice that you've shared with someone with regards to dealing with a challenge, or someone throwing an arrow, as you said, at you?
Yeah. You know what? Two tips for sure are top of mind, and it's me. I usually land on three, so that one will come out as we go around. But number one is, without any shadow of a doubt, stay in your lane. Literally, just in the best of ways. When you narrow, you can actually expand. And so we stay very simplified yet impactful in our subluxation, neurologically focused conversation. And we know every single shred of science that backs up what we're saying. And we also, what I'm saying by staying in your lane, we also know what we're not saying. We are clearly demarcating that there is no treatment. That's my least favorite word in the chiropractic world, that we're not treating, we're not curing, we're not even entering that stratosphere of conversation. We're staying in the chiropractic lane philosophically and scientifically. And then the second tip for handling adversity, because you bet it's going to come. You want to make a bigger impact, you're going to handle bigger adversity. So again, I'd go back to my thing from before. Don't say you want to be about it unless you're really going to be about it when you get there. And not to scare people from it, but it will come with this stuff. And so what you do is you entrench yourself into a community. You have your mentors, you have your accountability partners. And my favorite thing of Epic, we've got great content. Every video and PDF and PowerPoint we have is fantastic. But we have the most living, breathing, authentic, incredible community ever. So when somebody needs to be rewarded for a job well done, they've got hundreds of high fives coming their way, right? And when somebody needs to be picked up and dusted off because they got smoked because they're in Canada, or whatever it needs to be, right? We're going to cross the border and rally the troops and say, hey, we got you, right?
Yeah.
And man, I have a hard time speaking to it, honestly, Melissa. It's true value, I think, because I really don't know life without a community of that strength. So I have a hard time, honestly, not resonating, but being able to put that to docs and say, hey, this is the value of it, because I don't contrast it well because I've never lived without it.
Yeah, or maybe you've just always been able, you've always maybe had a community, or you've always been so focused and really certain in what you're delivering with people, and that's galvanized you to be able to take the hits when they've come, right?
Yes. And you know what the third thing is? Be smart. There, see, I knew I came with it. See it coming, right? It really, that's kind of staying in your lane. If you're going to go outside your lane and get on a video or do this and say about XYZ, all right, well, you're in somebody else's world right now. And so now you've increased, you have a chance to increase your fans by going into another lane. You also have a chance to increase your enemies. So you get to choose
taking calculated risks.
every time.
Right.
Every
Yeah.
time. Yep.
So, you've talked a lot about your vision of being a kick-ass dad and husband first, obviously you're kick-ass doc. How do you define success for yourself today? And how has that evolved as you become a father? Because, you graduated, you had your child pretty quickly after you graduated, I think. But as you've evolved through practice in life, has that definition of what is it, Dr. Tony, to feel successful changed?
No, I don't think it does, but it just gets clearer and clearer and even more important. How my kids look at me and how my wife, responds to me, and how easy when things are really good and I'm fulfilling what I want to be fulfilling, everything is really, really easy, right? My relationships, my joy, my fun, my energy with my family is really easy. And when I know I'm pushing it too far and getting out of balance, it starts to feel like I've got to try harder and get into that grind. So my measurement of success is, and this is so epic, Jackson would be proud of me saying it this way, right? Because I love the numbers and the stats like everybody else, right? I'm driven by that stuff and not afraid to say it either. But I'm truthfully the hardest working lazy person on earth. I like it to be easy and just have that joy and that reward and that time and space and energy to be able to enjoy it. So, that doesn't show up on a QuickBooks profit and loss. That doesn't show up on all of our spreadsheets where we track our stats. But I love hitting my goals, but I don't want to hit them with a bad feeling around them. Like, God, I had to sacrifice, or I had to really earn my way to that. I want to earn the goal and the reward and the enjoyment that comes with it. And I would sacrifice the former to get more of the latter if I had to.
You can't measure those things, right? And I was talking to one of my mentoring clients last week. I'm like, look, you can't measure how you're going to feel when you just know that you're being really present with your child, or you can't measure how you're going to feel when you're loving on your partner and that relationship is really strong and healthy. But there's no scale, right? Like, no checklist. Like, you can see the numbers and the metrics in your practice. You can't measure it, but it's so important for people to understand that, to live a really happy, joyous life with less stress. It's to really get clear on what success means to you as an individual, and then start living and building a life that reflects that.
In every way. And I love that it's immeasurable, because everything else is.
Right.
I'm a scan metric. I manage my business by metrics. I manage my patients by metrics, right? With scans and the core score and everything else. Like, math dominates my life in all of my other thought processes. So I love the freedom from that with my family. And sure, we have goals of this many vacations and this much time on and off and everything. But again, it's the quality of that experience that I'm really measuring, my success by. And I certainly, I start to lose it every now and again, and it gets to be that rebound of like, hey, I better right size this again and counterbalance, and, just like every one of us.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you guys are dealing with some of your, your clients within Epic, you must see, obviously lots of wins, but you must also see that they deal with challenges within practice. And is there anything that comes to mind as far as something that you're seeing really consistently right now? And if so, what's your recommendation to get them through it?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing in practice is to not take the easy road. And that may seem completely counterintuitive to what I just said, that I'm always striving for easy, right? And
you're lazy. You're the hardest working lazy person.
Exactly, right? So you're like, well, he's lying now, like, that's BS. And, no, it's the counter-opposing conversations of saying, we really encourage our clients to take the hard, easy approach, as we call it in Epic. And that's why it's my favorite to get this work out of the way with the startups, to get their level of certainty and confidence in chiropractic and in themselves as the vehicle of it, that they don't need to accept insurance, that they don't need to just take care of musculoskeletal problems if that's, if that isn't what they want to do. And in the same vein, if they want to be the greatest back pain assassin in the world, well, we're going to build a hell of a brand around that and a hell of a life around that. But no, what we really see as the biggest struggle is, because there will be times where it gets a little bit thin and a little bit slow and you get a little bit worn out and you want to just go for the easy stuff. Let me just tell this guy with back pain that I'll accept his insurance and he can just come a few visits and then we'll see how it goes, and not tell him the bigger story and stay adhered to the symptomatology. and stay there. And whether they're new or whether they're trying to transform, when they're going gets tough, to not fall back on the easy. Because once you've become certain and you've learned to communicate and build the value, and you have a defined practice, again, in our world, it would be seeing kids first and then families and creating that brand. Once that's established, it's the easiest thing in the world to stay there and continue to grow from there. And you just put distance and a huge gap between all the other crap that everybody else deals with. Mm-hmm. And that's I think it's in that formative stage to not take the easy route. Because I was told, and it's probably extra special for me, my first mentor, I didn't have David and Epic in the beginning. I took another system and another coaching and another contract, and they taught me a lot. I made the choice, right? That's my MO. Mm-hmm. So I got the most out of it. I didn't complain, but it was square peg in a round hole. They literally first told me, well, 80% of people have back pain. So why would you talk about anything else? That pediatric idea you have, that's cute. What we're going to do is you're going to tell this back pain message. You're going to accept insurance. You're going to do rehab. And then when you're successful, then you can take this pediatric thing on almost as a hobby. And that, Melissa, you nailed it with it. This is what you do with this podcast. I love this freaking podcast. That was their definition of success. Mm-hmm. And if I'd have gone for it, I'd have got there and gone, this sucks, right? Mm-hmm. And it would have precluded me from ever getting my definition of success, which was, swimming against the stream for sure. But that's the hardest thing for chiropractors, to not graduate, let all that fear and that BS of their loans and insurance and compliance and everything else get in their way. You want to see kids and families? Game on. Let's go.
Yeah, and that's a big, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your, feedback of the show. But it is really important to me. The show started with me talking just to women, but I know that there's so many dudes who are thinking the same things. They're like trying to figure out, like, what does chiropractic mean to me? What kind of practice do I want? And I'm like, if you really want a sports practice, then go do it. If you really want a peds practice, go do it. Just don't be respectful and understand what everyone else is doing. I know that's super idealistic, especially right now, but I just think we should all have respect, and really everyone should get adjusted. So whether you're getting adjusted for back pain, so you don't have to take a Tylenol, you're going to get adjusted to change your whole life and your worldview. It's a whole other perspective, but I think that there should be a lot more common ground, but we're not going to go there right now. But that's exactly it. I mean, and something we talked about earlier, which I think it kind of ties into this, is part of finding out how you're going to express chiropractic is finding out the right practice environment for you. And for so many docs, at least for me, it was always like, okay, well, you've got to be a private practice, because then you're going to really rock it. You're going to have control. You're going to be able to do your own thing and have other people work for you. And I was on that path, and I realized, you know what? It's not really what Melissa wants. And I found a way to practice that really works for me. And I think it's really important that we talk about this, because, you have associates, people work with this. So some docs in chiropractic aren't even practicing, but they are changing lives because of the other work that they're doing. They're writing, they're teaching at the schools, they are, coaching, they're doing research. I mean, we all need to share our gifts within chiropractic. So, we talked earlier about, you guys have a huge associate, part of your program with Epic, and you have some of them in your practice. So let's talk about that in the sense that I want to hear from you. What would be some of the things you would recommend people pursue an associate agreement? And if there's any tips you have to make those agreements be beneficial to both parties?
Oh, good Lord. Yes, 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 and yes. So this is huge. This isn't talked about enough, how wrong we do it. And again, I'm not going to try to be holier than thou here at all. I'm just going to contrast and say, here's how the profession has traditionally done it. And we know what the results are, right? Kind of like our marketing message. And then, here's how we're now doing it with Epic, that we've really flipped it on its head. And it is fantastic, not just for me, but for the Epic associates as well. And again, going to the club and the startups, what I want to do is to be able to go into these schools, which is my number one passion to get on a plane and go to, and say, look, for sure, you want to be CEO, you want to take your business with you wherever you go, because you do, right? Those that have it, right? You take it to margarita date nights, and you do take it on vacation, and you learn strategies to be better, but it's there. Or do you not want that? And if you don't have to buy the BS that says the only measurement of success is to be your own practice builder and everything. I want people to know, and again, our vernacular, I want students and startups and even established actors who are like, this isn't for me. I've got a story to illustrate that with ours, to wake up and go, being an Epic associate in this big badass practice that is making this huge impact, and I can just roll in, provide unbelievable care for my patients, be a part of a team that supports and loves and takes care of each other, and then roll home and be a dad or be a golfer or be a coach or whatever the heck they want to be. That is to be attained as well. So yes, here's the scoop. Here's how I see it. If I draw the picture all the way down to the agreement, what most chiropractors have, and again, I'm not judging, I'm just saying I never wanted this, so I had to flip it on its head. What most people call their associates aren't associates at all. The chiropractor gets busy enough where they're busy, but they've got a building, they've got staff, they've got hours, whatever that could open up, and they hire whoever chiropractor, and they go, I'm already established, I'm full, but we've got this. You get to kind of ride the coattails a little bit, but here's your dry spine, or here's your scanner. Go to Costco, go to the county fair, go get your own damn new patients, do your own damn day 1, day 2, put them on your own care plans. That's called an independent contractor, and we call them an associate. So when we do that and we send this new chiropractor who sucks at marketing, sucks at communicating, stinks at day 1, day 2, we send them out into the community where nobody knows them. They have no credibility, authority, and expertise in that community. Only one of two things are going to happen, and neither are good. One, most common, they're not going to be good at it. If they thought they were going to be and were ready to be awesome at it, they probably wouldn't have taken the job to do it for you, right?
Right.
So they're going to fail or struggle, and then they're going to get burnt out. The owner's going to get frustrated. Agreement ends. Both people are pissed off and blame the other. Or second option is it works. This new associate becomes awesome at communicating and marketing and converting and builds up a really great practice, where then they wake up one day and go, they're giving you a big cut of it, and they go, I'm doing this all on my own anyways, just under this roof. See you later. Right? And usually that see you later doesn't end well either. There's animosity, there's pissed offness that comes with it. So it's just a double negative. We flip it on its head. With Epic, we say, look, we have an established brand and machine in this community. And instead of being tied working in my practice, I want to keep growing it. So what we bring together is we bring in chiropractors who have certain strengths. The first lead associate on my team was one of my best friends and accountability partners forever. And he had a great practice that he worked his ass off to, but he hated the marketing and he hated the people management. He took all the training, had all the coaches, all the mentoring, but he was never going to be happy doing that. So when he had an opportunity to join me, 1 + 1 = 11, because I love that stuff and I'm good at it. Right? So now he gets to roll in Dr. Ron, and he takes care of patients. He is unbelievable. Then he gets to roll out and go be his son's wrestling coach, and he gets to go do these things. And so we work as a team, and we don't have each other's patients. We have a practice patient. So all 5 of us chiropractors see everybody. They could, if they're getting adjusted 5 times a week, they could get a different adjustment from a different doc. Yet the same adjustment with the same communication, same connection, same plan all the way through. So the way the agreement comes, and you bet Jake would, our model, I'm too busy, not too busy, awesomely busy with Epic Peds and everything else. So my brother man, Dr. Jake, runs our Epic Associate program. There's a URL we can get you for that too, but it teaches all the agreement. We change the finances, right? So you don't have to run the calculations every month. Like, well, I was on vacation and then you adjusted Betty. So 1 out of Betty's adjustments goes to me.
Right.
It's a shit show of math, right? Honestly, sorry.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just be a team. And, we share the profit from that.
So really, a lot of it comes down to the expectation and the communication and the intention when the agreement starts, and having really clear, a lot of clarity around that.
And a lot of clarity, and it really replaces, this is so cliche, but cliches earn their way to cliches because they work. Right? You have to be done with the me, and so do they. There's no more me, and it's all we. It really fits what we were talking about before. So there's no my practice and your practice. It's our practice.
We have talked about a lot of amazing things today, and I'm really, really grateful that this lined up. I know you're such a committed family man. We had to reschedule this a few times because of stuff on your end, on my end, but I'm really, really appreciative of your time today. If there was one thing before we wrap up here that you would really love all chiropractors to know, what would you say that would be?
Man, I would go to my cowbell here, and I would say that if you want out of the traditional subluxated places that so many chiropractors fall into, wanting to tell a bigger story than pain, but not finding your way to it, wanting to not have to deal with insurance and third-party pay, but not finding your way to it, don't beat up on those things and bash them. Go forward. Fix it forward is my saying, and go forward into full head of steam. Get your training, get your mentoring, get your coaching from that, and the way to do it. But go full freaking forward into what you want, and especially if that's kids and the clearest path out of where everybody else stuck right now is pediatrics and family practice. Moms and dads of this generation are done with the level of distrust in the pediatrician and the medical system. They really don't need us to throw rocks at it anymore. I know it's still standing firm, but it's crumbling. And the level of distrust they have there, and the level of disdain and just disgusting feeling every time they've got to put more drugs into their babies, they don't know the 33 principles, but yet they don't want to do that. So when they find us, this generation more than ever, our joke, Melissa, that I'll wrap it up with just to have fun, they don't want antibiotics in the burritos or the chicken breast they're feeding to their children anymore, right?
Right.
So they are so ready for our message. They just don't know we exist. So if you want to blow up 100% freaking fun, 100% cash, rock star practice right now, start with pediatrics, bring the family along. Don't think you're going to start with pain with the dad and then get their kids under care. That's the easy but very, very hard model. The hard model is get your certainty, get your training, get your wherewithal to be a pediatric chiropractor, and let the rest of the awesomeness easily come along.
And it's just so much more fun. Like, you want to have more joy in practice, you got to have babies. I mean, I take for granted sometimes how many kids we see on a daily basis because, my boys are bigger, but people come in and even the adults love seeing kids because they bring this joy and this energy, and you get to hold a 5-day-old baby and toddlers. I mean, they're just hilarious.
and your kiddos and teenagers too. When you're the family chiropractor for a teenager and they are in that funky part of life where they're maybe not so chummy and funny with their parents anymore, right? Because they're trying to act cool. They totally let loose with you. You could be the biggest, smart ass ever. It's just so joyous. You got it. Whether it's the 5-day baby or the 15-year-old who you can, you get them to come unlocked through the adjustments. It's our practice is 50% chiropractic and for 50% jokes.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, a big thing I talk about in a lot of our programs and stuff is finding more joy and less stress in your life. And if you want to find more joy and less stress in your life, docs, you got to get clear on the kind of practice that you want for yourself, like we talked about. And if it's a pediatric family practice, I certainly think what you guys are doing at Epic is the place to get started. So we will drop all the links into the show notes of events that these guys have coming up, or you want to just connect with Dr. Tony. You know how to reach them. There'll be lots of links there in the show notes too. So thank you so much again for your time. I've had a blast, and I look forward to catching up with you in person again sometime soon.
Thank you, buddy. I'll be listening to every episode ongoing as I drive all over the country here in my life. So love it. Thank you.
Thanks for being here today. If you like this show, please share it with another chiropractor and connect them with this message. We are always better off together than we are alone. If you haven't yet subscribed, head on over to Apple Podcasts or iTunes, and don't forget to rate and review the show while you're there. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram and Facebook, and find out more about today's guests and all things Rockstar Doctor Life by clicking in those show notes. See you next time.